James Ackerman. Hello Chris, I've been watching your videos for a couple of years now and have recently read your book. Needless to say, I've found the information you provide about Scientology and destructive cults very interesting and very useful. I want to pose a hypothetical scenario to you where Scientology had either taken over or formed its own city-state or maybe even its own country. I want to know how you would think such a society would be run and organized, how it would interact with the global community, what its transportation system would be, etc. I ask because I've read and watched things that suggest that Hubbard had once tried to do something like this with Rhodesia, but more importantly because I wanted to hear how you think Hubbard's management, study, and ethics technology would look like if applied on a much larger scale than at present. Thanks and keep up the good work. I've never really given this whole thing much thought, but I guess that I think it would look a lot like North Korea. And I've said that before, of course, and I gathered that from Mike Rinder, who actually is the first person I know of or that I can recall, who made that comparison. I also think it might look quite a bit like Nazi Germany. And, the Scientologists are not outwards. I know that some Scientologists or people who are pro-Scientology or something like that might think that's really, really offensive. But I don't mean it to be offensive. I don't say that because I'm making a joke or trying to degrade Scientologists. It's the fact that Scientology is an authoritarian system. And it is a high control group that engages in real thought control and thought-stopping techniques in order to forward its message and keep people involved with it. So you have things like the Office of Special Affairs, which is akin to or analogous to the Gestapo. And you have things like disconnection and shunning. That is a destructive practice. It is thought-stopping and thought control to run that on people. You are either with us or you are against us. It's black and white. And if you're going to run, if you think about what would it look like if a city or a country operated that way, well, look at North Korea, right? Here you have a country where you have a leader who is analogous to David Miscavige in many ways, both height, attitude, arrogance, that sort of thing. He's kind of this little bully, and when you look at the political situation in North Korea, you understand that he kind of has to posture and has to make himself puffed up and look much more dangerous than he actually is. Because he's surrounded by countries, or very near countries who are really dangerous, right? Who really do have military might. So there's that aspect of it. But don't get me wrong. I'm not justifying, this guy's, arrogance or insanity, or the way that they treat their citizens, right? This sort of false veneer, the lies that have to be told to the citizens and to the rest of the world in order to continue a totalitarian regime like that are never anything else but destructive to its citizenry. So if you're gonna, and then you have, like, for example, you have the Nazis, right? Lots of propaganda would be the order of the day. There would be failing systems, failing administrative systems, failing management systems, because Hubbard's management technology does not work. It is not a viable system. And if it were, Scientology organizations would be expanding and successful and prosperous. They are the epitome of what it is to be run by Scientology administrative procedures. I mean, I did a whole video about what's wrong with the Scientology hierarchy, the whole, command system, and I laid out the command chart and I showed in detail why it is that does not work. And, and it was a long video because it had to be, because I had to explain the whole thing. So I'll refer to that video, and I'll put a link to it in the notes below on this video. But that is Hubbard's management system. So if you imagine that on a government-wide scale, it's much worse than even the bureaucracy of the United States or any, the bureaucracies tend to be very unwieldy. Their very nature makes them so. But Hubbard's system of the organizing board and all that sort of thing is not a solution to that problem. It just doesn't work. So they would try to use it find it doesn't work, fill holes, have to, make do with sticky tape and that sort of thing in order to make the thing operate. And you'd have a lot of people who were being told and who had to say, this system is the best system ever, and this is the system that is just the most wonderful thing and it's going to save the world. And yet they have to go to work every day knowing that it's not the best system in the world, it's not working, it's not producing viability or expansion or prosperity. It requires a lot of modification in order for it to work. So if you get Hubbard's way, and then you have the things you have to do to make Hubbard's systems work, right? That's management. And also, when you bring in the heavy totalitarian ethics system on top of that, now you're punishing people for having independent thought or creative ideas or trying to fix this thing, and then if they complain about it or actually have freedom of expression, then they get slapped down, right? Because you have this whole reporting system with knowledge reports where people have to write up and report to ethics officers, and ethics officers have to walk around inspecting everybody and looking, and they kind of play a bit of an SS role, or the KGB, right? You have these secret police systems. So we already know what those systems would look like, and we already know the results of those systems. They fail every single time, because people are not going to be living under authoritarian regimes for very long. The USSR didn't last a century, and that was a horrible, horrible system, right? People just have a natural inclination to fight against that. They want to express themselves, they want to be creative, they want to have a voice, they want to be part of something, and when that thing that they're trying to be part of keeps pushing them down into the, into the ground, and or killing people, things like that, the leaders of those groups and those systems don't last. And that is why I don't think Scientology will ever expand to the point where it's going to even be a threat of a city-state or a nation or anything like that, because they're too bonkers. It's really the bottom line. And they're too self-destructive. Their organizations don't last, their systems don't work. So the whole thing is just sort of doomed from the beginning. And again, also, as I've laid out in my videos, the system of Scientology itself has destruction, its own destruction, built into its DNA. So that's my take on that.